remember Shifu saying, you know, I know in Islam they call God Allah. And so I was like, so do we even say God? Shifu was saying something about dogs. But he said, what is dog spelled backwards? And I'm not sure what he was saying was in a positive or a negative space, because he said it twice. Once was coming from a negative space, not a negative space, but yeah, we don't really mess with God, the word God, because of its affiliate, or we don't mess with dogs. I don't know. You know, I'll be remembering 50% of the story, but the 50% I remember is what triggered me to think this way, and so that's why I'm telling that 50%. So I don't know how he feels about dogs, but I know he did make the connection that dogs are God's, maybe this is the connection I made in my head. I don't know what his point was, but dogs are God's messengers here on earth, like birds and all those other things, but dog is truly man's best friend. God incarnated in the form of a dog because they're man's best friend. There's your companion right there. Guaranteed that dog is saving my child's life because they are creating a soul connection. Guaranteed this dog is saving my family. Guaranteed this dog is saving everyone in this house's life as much as we are saving this dog's life. Because this dog was living in the equivalent of a doggy prison. If you are not spading and neutering your dogs, please do so. These shelters are a prison. I remember hearing a prisoner somewhere, not sure where a prisoner came into my field of awareness, but it did. And they said being in jail is like never-ending noise. It's loud all the time. And when we walked into that shelter, and every single dog started barking, except for Alfalfa, and maybe one or two. It's like, yo, can you imagine being the dog that doesn't bark? And this is the hell you're living in? And then being all the other dogs that's barking, some of the dogs barking because the other dog's barking, like it's the same in humanity. Some dudes bucking up because somebody else is bucking up, not because he want to buck up, but everybody bucking up, so we bucking too. And then there's some who are secure enough in themselves to be like, yeah, I'm chilling. Some who's scared, so they chilling. We don't know why everybody's chilling, but what I'm saying is it replicates in the animal kingdom. We are all either a computer program, we are all divine creatures, we are all the Big Bang, we are all evolution from monkeys, we are all whatever we all. But what we are all is a replication of the original code. So the feelings you feel, animals feel too. And if you're out here allowing your animals to replicate and reproduce just so they could be thrown on the street or be thrown into a shelter, shame on you. But if you do choose to buy an animal, please go to a shelter. So anyway, I post on my Facebook how we have a new family dog, and this dog, you know, God must have some craftiness up his sleeve right now, because this dog, right on time, such a blessing. And it's uniting my family. Now, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in my family. My family truly is divided right now. Rightfully so. There's a technique that I'm utilizing right now. My husband's very much aware of what's going on. But I'm standing my ground and I'm breaking a cycle. And breaking that cycle, my husband is losing his mind and he's turning into everything I thought my husband would never be. Because he's glitching out. He can no longer look at me as being the problem. I'm no longer being problematic. He used to be able to blame me for his issues. I'm miserable because of her. She makes me miserable. At least I like her. Admit it, don't admit it. That's what it is. And so he accepted that, and I accepted that. Now that I've come to a space of realizing someone can always blame their self-loathing on you as long as you give them something to blame. And I was just like, I'm gonna stop giving him something to blame, and what's he gonna do? And y'all remember, those of you who've been rocking for a minute, it's 4:44, hold on. Those of you who've been rocking for a minute, y'all know when I made them videos talking about where my husband he was arguing with himself, he literally was like, why aren't you arguing with me anymore? He was so caught in the cycle of arguing and me being problematic, and I just now came to a space in 2024 of not being problematic. And so, being in this energy, who you gonna blame for your unhappiness now? You can't blame me anymore, but you're still unhappy. So now you're in therapy, and you're blaming me and saying, you got me going to therapy. No, you got yourself going to therapy because you can't blame me anymore. So you're blaming me because you're like, if I can't blame her, who do I blame? I gotta go talk to somebody so they could tell me who to blame. But I'm gonna blame her because I'm so unstable right now and it's her actions, but what is she really doing? I am doing nothing compared to what I used to do to this man. Nothing compared to what I used to do to this man. Go just peep our history. As the apple turns on YouTube, go peep our history. Go find us on Facebook. Go read our public posts to each other and how we used to talk to each other. I don't do nothing to this man compared to what I used to do to this man. Yet this man is losing his mind. When Alfalfa came into our lives, just last night, we all stood in a room together for maybe the first time in a while and had a discussion about the trauma that this dog has experienced. And for the first time, I believe myself, so I know, or I can assume others saw for the first time a visual representation of the trauma causes. This dog is still a puppy. Hey, Alfalfa. Alfie's still a puppy. Still got puppy teeth. This dog is terrified of humans. What has this dog been through where it is terrified of humans? Doesn't know how to walk on a leash. Scared to step over the threshold to walk inside or outside. Doesn't bark. I ain't heard this dog bark, but that's it. The dog doesn't bark. But he's so freaking happy. He is so loving. And it's like, he snapped at Caden, and I was just like, I wasn't thinking about the veracity of how this dog can bite. Like, if you get with my kids, you gotta go. But I was just like, Caden's gotta respect the dog. And then now I'm actually seeing the manifestation of the trauma. I was like, this is a trauma response. And the only way that a dog has to express a trauma response is to bite. A human, we have other options to express our trauma, but a dog can only bite. Are we going to blame the dog for having a trauma response when our entire life is a fucking trauma response? So really just trying to find a space to where we, Alfalfa is a permanent Taylor Appleton. Because he deserves us and we deserve him. And so we all sat around and talked about him and saw the physical manifestation of his trauma. And Dre was able to see all this stuff I've been talking about. His trauma, my trauma, how we're inflicting trauma on our children. All these things he's been fighting me, he's able to see in this dang dog. This blessed dog. This puppy. Them kids gonna be okay. This puppy ain't okay. If I kick the puppy or I kick the old dog, who's it gonna hurt more? If I inflict trauma on a child or I inflict trauma on an adult, who's to say when the trauma starts traumaing? Trauma's trauma. And we're all able to see it, and we all are able to see how we must coax Alfalfa out of that trauma. We all have to love him out of that trauma. We have to let him know that we are trustworthy and we are safe. That's why I told the boys and Angel, I was like, don't growl at me, I'm your brother. Don't growl at me, I'm your sister. Don't growl at them, that's your brother and your sister. We're your family, you're safe now. Reinforcing that and saying it and showing that. Don't just tell your kids you love them and then beat them. Punish them. We think punishing is the only way that they can be reprimanded. Have you learned a lesson in life without the stupid punishments? Like, the punishments we be delving out are dumb. And they're the same punishment we did last time, and it's still not effective, but we gonna keep doing it because punishment works. No, you just eventually grew out the interest of doing it. Keep it G.